Hello students. In this session, we are going to discuss about the classification of banking assets. There are two types of banking assets. One is performing and the another one is non-performing asset. The performing asset is the asset which is classified into four different subclasses. One is standard, second one is substandard assets, third one is doubtful assets, and fourth one is the loss assets. The standard assets for banks are an asset that is not just classified as an NPA list, that is non-performing asset list. The asset exhibits no issue in the usual course other than the usual business risk. More specifically, if we say, according to Reserve Bank of India circular, the substandard assets is an asset that has continued to remain an non-performing asset for a period of less than or equal to 1 year. Then now we'll see what is the exact meaning of a substandard asset. A substandard asset is an asset which is classified as an NPA for less than 12 months. Suppose if the borrower is not repaid the interest and the principal amount for the period of less than 12 months, then it will be termed as substandard asset. A doubtful asset is an asset that has been non-performing for more than 12 months, so that it will be comes under the doubtful asset. The loss assets are loans with losses identified by the bank auditors or inspection units that need to be fully written off. So we have standard assets, which is having the classification of it will not be in the NPA list, and the substandard assets, which is having the non-repayment of the loans for the up to 12 months, and the doubtful asset, which is having the non-repayment of the loans by the borrower for more than 12 months. And the last classification is the loss asset, which the auditor or the bank, during their inspection, they found that it is a loss. It is not non-recoverable amount that will be called as the loss assets. And if you see the cash, what are the loss assets, which comprising of cash and cash equivalents, inventories, investments, property, plant, equipment, vehicles, furniture, then patents, and the stocks, which are all comes under the loss of assets. We'll see what is the meaning of NPA. Non-performing assets, NPA, refers to the classification for the loans or advances that are in default or in arrears, or the non-repayment of the loans. A loan is in arrears when principal or interest payments are late or missed. That will be considered as an NPA. A loan is in default when the lender considers the loan agreement to be broken and the debtor is unable to meet his obligations. So that is the normal, the fundamentals of NPA. How this non-performing assets will work, how it will operates. The non-performing assets are listed on the balance sheet of the bank or other financial institutions. After a lengthy period of non-repayment of loans, the moneylender will force the debtor to liquidate or sell any assets or property that pledged as part or whole of the debt agreement. If there is no assets or property were pledged against the loan, the moneylender may write off the property or asset to be called as a bad loan, or bad debt and then sell it at a discount to the collection agency. In most cases, debt is classified as non-performing when loan payments have not been made for the period of 90 days. While 90 days is the standard and the amount of the elapsed time may be shorter or longer depending on the terms of the conditions of each individual loan, a loan can be classified as a non-performing asset at any point during the term of the loan or its maturity. If we take an example, assume a company with a rupees 10 lakhs loan with interest only payments of rupees 50,000 per month fails to make a payment for 3 consecutive months. The lender may be required to categorize the loan as a non-performing to meet the regulatory requirements. Alternatively, a loan can also be categorized as non-performing if a company makes all interest payments but cannot repay the principal at maturity time. Carrying non-performing asset also referred to a non-performing loans on the balance sheets places a significant burden on the lender. The non-payment of interest or principal reduces the lender's cash flow, which can disrupt budgets and decrease the earnings of the banks. The loan loss provisions, which are set aside to cover potential losses of the banks, reduce the capital available to provide subsequent loans to other borrowers. Once the actual losses from defaulted loans are determined, they are written off against earnings. Carrying a significant amount of non-performing assets on the balance sheet over a period of time is an indicator to regulators that the financial health of the bank is at very high risk. So this is how the non-performing assets will operate in the banking sector. And we have a different types of non-performing assets, NPA. Although the most common non-performing assets are term loans, there are other forms of non-performing assets as well. Overdraft and cash credit accounts left out of order for more than 90 days. That is also NPA. Agricultural advances whose interest or principal installment payments remain overdue for 2 crops or the harvest seasons, for short duration crops, for overdue 1 crop season for long duration crops. That is also termed to be a NPA account. An expected payment on any other types of account is overdue for more than 90 days. That will be termed as the NPA. How we can record this NPA accounts or NPA assets? Banks are required to classify non-performing assets into one of 3 categories according to how long the asset has been non-performing, either substandard assets form or a doubtful asset form or a non-assets form, loss assets form. A substandard assets is an asset classified as an NPA for the less than 12 months, as we discussed, and the doubtful assets, which is non-performing for more than 12 months. And the last accounts, we already know that the auditor found it is fully identified as a loss one or V2B, the bank has to be fully written off. They typically have an extended period of non-repayment, and it can be reasonably assumed that it will not be repaid. Now we will see what is the status of non-performing asset in India, because in India is suffering from a very big percentage of NPA accounts, so that it will affect the overall banking sector in India. As of March 31st, 2018, the provisional estimate suggests that the total volume of gross NPA in the economy, which stood at rupees 10.35 lakh crores. About 85% of the NPAs are from loans and advances of public sector banks. For instance, NPAs in the State Bank of India are worth rupees 2.23 lakh crore. Obviously, it will affect the profitability of the bank, where one side they are creating profit, all this profit will be absorbed by this NPA. According to the Reserve Bank of India, the gross non-performing assets in Indian banks, especially in public sector banks, are valued at around rupees 4 lakh crores, which represents 90% of the total NPA in India, with private sector banks accounting for the remainder. And what is non-performing assets, how it is placed, and what are the reasons for the rise in the NPA level? We need to figure out what is the reasons. From 2000 to 2018, the Indian economy was in the boom phase, and banks, especially public sector banks, started lending extensively to companies. However, the financial crisis in 2008 and 9, corporates' profits decreased and the government banned mining projects. The situation becomes serious with a substantial delay in environmental permits affecting the infrastructure sector, especially the power, iron, and steel, which resulting in volatility in prices of raw materials and shortage of supply. The another reason is the relaxed lending norms adopted by the banks, especially to the big corporate houses, foregoing the analysis of their financial and their credit rating. So in these ways, the NPA has got increased over a period of time. There are recent development which tries to tackle this NPA, to control this NPA, such as the insolvency and bankruptcy code, credit risk management, tightening the credit monitoring, amendment to banking law to give the RBI more power, and more haircut for banks. That is the provision of controlling the losses by the through the recovering of funds, and speedy recovery and strict policy of recovery of money, and the corporate governance issues, then the accountability of the banks. In these ways, we can able to tackle this or control this NPA. So with this, we'll stop here. We'll continue in the next session. Thank you, students.